they're talking about transfer fees of potentially up to £20 million.
Yeah.
And EFL clubs can still trade with the Premier League. So it can still happen. And I would be interested to see if that would happen. What would be your opinion on that if Spurs could get that over the line?
That's a good question. I like Joe Rodon. I do. I think he's I'd love to get him on this podcast. So if anybody that's watching this knows him, put him in touch. We're Swansea boys. Well, Reece slightly further down the bridge, but he can come on and talk to us about the move, and we can get the exclusive. So if he's listening, feel free to get in touch. Going back to the move itself, it's hard, right? Because being that I am from Swansea, a lot of my allegiances lie with this city, and I want the city to do well. And one of the ways the city thrives is when the football team is thriving. When Swans first came into the Premier League, the city was buzzing. Like, it was absolutely buzzing. Every single game, people were excited. There's the mood around the city instantly lifted. And in order to recapture that feeling, we need players like him to stay. But the problem is, I don't think he will. I think the lure of going to Tottenham and Mourinho, and the wage as well, is too big. The talk, actually, ironically, because I mentioned this to someone the other day. I mentioned it to one of the lads I know who's a big Swans fan, and he was like, "Nah, it won't be Spurs, it'll be West Ham." I think he'd be foolish to take the West Ham gig. I don't think West Ham are really going anywhere, to be honest with you. If you look at that Spurs team now with Gareth Bale and Son and Kane and Lo Celso starting to pick up a bit of form, and Ndombele's looking good. Joe Rodon slotting into the back. I think obviously it'll be a back five. Maybe even alongside Ben Davis in a back five in that back three. I think it'd be an excellent move for him. Are Swansea getting shortchanged, Reece? That's the question I would ask you.
No, absolutely not. I mean, there are several ways of looking at this transfer. Looking objectively and from a Spurs point of view, then they will be getting a player who's got enormous potential. He's not a finished article, and he will need help to get there. When you buy a young player, I mean, to get them between 15 and 20 million, which is the current negotiation sticking block, is the transfer fee. I know Swansea are holding out for all they can get, which is rightfully so. But around that number is not a bad amount to pay for a young defender with what I would say is bags of potential. I've watched him a few times, and he is a solid player, a surprisingly solid player for his age. But he does need the help. So from a Spurs point of view, it's a cheap one. I'm not sure that he will go into the starting 11, but they do need cover in that area. Looking at it from my own personal point of view, I'm extremely concerned. Like I said, if he goes in to the starting 11, then it's fantastic news. Obviously, I don't want to see Swansea suffer. They're my local team as much as they are yours, and I really want them to do well. I hope that they would invest the £20 million wisely, which I don't think they would, based on previous evidence. Yeah. And they're looking like a team that's finally starting to get it together in the Championship. They're finally starting to put a team together that knows each other, wants to play with each other, understands the style of football. They're a young nucleus of players that are starting to grow up together, which is good from the Swans' point of view. And I would be concerned that taking Joe Rodon, who is an integral part of that team, out of the team would have a huge negative impact on the squad. That being said, putting my Wales hat on, if Joe Rodon was to go to the Spurs team and play in that starting 11, that's great news. Because Spurs are going places. He'll be playing with experienced centre-halves who can positively affect his game. He'll be playing with Hugo Lloris, who's a hugely experienced World Cup winning goalkeeper who can help him with, playing out for the back and playing together in that system. He'll be playing with, international players in the midfield he'll be able to link up with. And crucially, playing against Premier League players, which is obviously good, and playing for Jose Mourinho, arguably the best defensive coach in the world, other than maybe Diego Simeone. So it would be hugely beneficial for his game if he plays. On the flip side of that argument, if he is not in Mourinho's plans for a starting spot in the next couple of years, then from a Welsh point of view, that is awful news, because that will mean that one half of Wales' defensive line will be on Spurs' bench. in that Joe Rodon and Ben Davies will both be on the bench, which is dreadful news from the international perspective. I think he is good. Is he good enough for Spurs? It pains me to say no, because he could be, and we don't know for sure. But for me, it's not the right signing at the right time.
I'll kind of go against the grain with that. I think he is the right signing. He fits the profile of what Spurs want. Spurs want young, hungry players now to come into that side and add to that side. You know, you look at a Reguilon coming in. I know Reguilon is obviously more of a short-term signing because you'll probably end up back in Madrid. But Joe Rodon going there, look, you've got to back yourself. You only get one life, and you've got to make your next move your best move. So if you're going to Spurs, be of the mentality that Eric Dyer, I want your spot. Do you know what I mean? Davinson Sanchez, I want your spot. Don't go there just to be a backup player. Go there, have a belief in yourself and be like, you know what? I'm as good as all of you. In fact, I'm better than you, and I'm going to show it. And if you go in and you work hard every day and you get your head down, you don't do anything stupid, and you listen to, especially listening to what Mourinho wants. That's where a lot of players struggle. You know, your Martials, your Shaws, your Pogbas. That's where they all fall out. They don't listen to him. If you listen to what Mourinho wants and you just follow his instructions to a T, you will be perfectly okay. So, yeah, Joe Rodon, I'm going to say, yeah, take that move if it comes through. Why not? You know, ultimately, if you get a 4-year contract with Spurs and after 2 years you're not happy, you can all just move on anyway.